love how you talk about kind of mentoring broken people because, I have a similar passion, and I think it's because I see the same brokenness in myself. And it's almost as though, a lot of us tend to think we've arrived. But genuinely, I still feel as though I am this broken person that, is continually, yes, I'm mentoring people, but I'm continually being mentored as well. So I think just having those voices in our life are so important.
Hey, I'm Armando Leduc, producer, film actor, and owner of Leduc Entertainment. I've chosen a life off the beaten path and wanted to find others that are doing the same. Spaghetti on the Wall is a show based on all of the years that I've thrown spaghetti on the wall and nurtured what stuck. We will share fun stories, ideas, tips, tricks, and more. Welcome to Spaghetti on the Wall.
Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, depending on when you are consuming this podcast. Ladies and gentlemen, back with another one. Spaghetti on the Wall with Andrew Reichert. Like that?
It's great. I like to get the applause out of the way before I start talking.
100%.
Just in case I totally bomb.
You know what? Well, what happens is if you just talk and then we just hit the button, it's like almost like whatever you said is like the most profound thing ever.
That's incredible.
Which is
I
awesome.
need one of those to follow me around my house because
100%.
My kids are always giving me a hard time. So I just need applause to follow me.
Right? Or one of these.
That's what I usually get.
That's more than likely.
That's what I usually get.
I was talking to my wife about that the other day. I was like, just like nobody cares about the man. Nobody cares about the husband.
What's that all about?
They just don't care. They're just not, you're the Rock, right? You're not supposed to be like vulnerable, I guess, but
yeah.
I feel like you should have a space. And luckily, we're in a group together called the Visionary Forum.
True.
Where I found a really good space to sort of be vulnerable, express myself, and found other people like me that do the same thing, So I get my vulnerability out of the way, and not to say that I can't be vulnerable with my wife. It feels better to talk with other people that are like business owners and that have some of the same issues and problems.
For sure. The Visionary Forum is great for that. And therapy.
And
therapy is also very good for that.
100%, which, remind me, I got to get back to therapy. So Andrew here runs a company called Birgo, and they own multifamily multiplexes, and they have that side, and then they also have the investment side, right?
Yep.
So talk to me about how did this even happen? How did you even get into this?
Yeah, for sure. So just kind of fell into it. In college, I was reading this book called Rich Dad, Poor Dad.
Yeah.
And I grew up in a family that had very little means, and I realized I had sort of this poor dad mindset. And one of the things they talk about in the Rich Dad mindset is real estate. And I just found myself falling in love with the concept of owning investment real estate. Yeah. So the year I graduated from college, I actually buy a duplex. And now these were different times. You can't do this today, but I have no cash, I have no credit, and I have no experience. And I walk away from closing with a check for $20,000. So
how did you do that? Was this before 2008?
This is before 2008.
Yeah,
so I'm aging myself here, but yeah, this is why 2008 happened, by the way,
because of that.
Because of guys like me, right? Why on earth would the bank give me a duplex?
How old were you?
$20,000. I was 21 years old. So
you were 21?
Yeah, just
and
graduated
you were like,
college.
Hey, I'm just gonna. What was your credit score?
I mean, I had no credit, right? Like I had never had a credit card, so I don't even know what my credit score was.
Did you have a cosigner?
No. This is the crazy things that you could do back in 2007. So,
shit, that's crazy.
Exactly. So, I buy this duplex and then I have a check for $20,000. And so I take that check and I go buy some more real estate, refinance that, buy some more real estate. Before I know it, I have 20 units. And I'm working a full-time job and a really incredible job. But I just felt called to real estate. I fell in love with real estate as I was just acquiring it and operating on the side. And so resigned from that job in 2012 and been doing the full-time real estate thing for a little over a decade now.
It's so funny when you start something, the ignorance of not knowing is such a blessing.
Yeah, totally. Right.
Because if you knew.
Because now I look back, I'm like, that was a little crazy.
Yeah, right? Yeah. But then at that time, you're just like, whatever, man. I'm just gonna move forward and try some things out. And then all of a sudden, like I produced a movie. I had no idea what that was gonna be like. And like it almost broke me. You know what I mean? But at the time, you're just like, I'm gonna make a movie.
Just gonna make a movie, yeah.
And like obviously you learn a crap ton, you know, just learning. Did you go to college? You went to college.
Yeah, so University of Pittsburgh, that's where I was you know, kind of reading that Rich Dad Poor Dad book, and really when I started to apply myself, you know, prior to college I was applying myself to all the wrong things. So college was kind of a turning point for me, starting to apply myself more to the things that I wanted to do in my life.
What was your major?
I was a business major in marketing, and I was an economics minor.
Gotcha. I went to school for vocal performance.
And
so I was like,
you got to use those skills, though.
But I did, right? I didn't graduate, but I'm still using those skills today, which is kind of funny. But I was like, at the time, I was like, I don't need to go into debt to learn how to sing. Right?
Yeah.
Like I just was like, there was something about that just like, I was like, meh.
Yeah.
So I left and then just started the entrepreneurial route, you know, I started the entrepreneurial route when I opened up a swing Latin and ballroom studio at 21.
Okay.
And that was crazy. Right?
Nice.
Once again, being ignorant and just moving forward on things that you're just like, whatever, let's try it.
Let's do it. Now, are those dances that you do?
Yeah, I still do it, you know, like foxtrot, waltz, salsa, tango, you know, all of that stuff. So, you know, I learned from a guy, and then I was pretty much running a studio. And it's so funny, the guy that's my COO now, I've known him for a long time, Will. Mm-hmm. I was talking to him because we were doing theater together, and I was like, man, I can't keep working for this dude because he's just like, you know, taking advantage. And he's like, why don't you just open up your own studio? And he was like, I can do that. And so I was like, all right. So I started reading some like business books and stuff. And like 6 months later, I opened up the studio, and, you know, that kind of, you know, just launched it, you know? So same sort of deal. Like you just kind of go into these things not really knowing, you know, and the ignorance of it is just such a good, you know, such a good thing. Right?
Yeah, totally.
Smash your face several times and you go, okay, let's not do that again. Right?
Yep. Yeah. And it's amazing how important those voices can be in our life. You know, you talked about Will kind of saying like, hey, let's just try this. You know, those were the kinds of encouraging voices that I was hearing in my life at that time as well. And sometimes you just need to hear that, right? Like from somebody that's not intimately in your space. You need somebody to just tell you, hey, it's fine. You should do this. Take a risk. You can always go back to whatever. Just
give you permission. Yeah. That's all you needed, right? That one voice of like, I could do that? All right, I guess so. Yeah, you're right. So who were those people in your life that kind of, that was like, hey, man, you should probably do this?
Yeah, two people come to mind. One, when I was in college, I had a guy who I had interned at his company, and he became a bit of a mentor for me. And he was the voice of tough love that I needed in college. Just telling me to get my act together, stop goofing around. And I just really needed to hear that. And then as I was kind of working my full-time job and investing in real estate, another voice kind of comes to mind, another person who had kind of been a little bit of a mentor of mine. And he said, Andrew, if things don't work out, if you start this company, things don't work out, you can always go back to doing what you were doing. Maybe not at the same company, but you know, you can always kind of go back to doing what you're doing. Yeah. And that was exactly what I needed to hear in that time. So
it's so funny. My wife is always on me about mentoring like these broken people. And she's like, why is it that you're always like mentoring these like broken people? And it came to me like the other day because one of the guys that I mentor went to jail because he was drinking and he hit the back of a car. Luckily nobody died, you know what I mean? And now he's, you know, and he went to jail, and I'm like, so what are you learning, you know, from this?
Right, yeah.
You know, what are you going to do? You know, and hopefully this is the wake up call that you need, you know? But I feel like I feel like with these broken people, I needed to be a voice to them to kind of like the same for me, right? The people that were like, hey man, can you get your crap together? Like, what are you doing with your life? You're going nowhere quickly, you know? And it's like that sort of mentorship that needs to happen, especially with people that don't know what to do, right? And they're like confused, and somebody to just say, hey, it's okay to not know, right? It's okay.
Yep.
Try things out though. Like, don't just sit around doing drugs and you know what I mean? Like
Right,
acting
yeah.
like an idiot. Like go after something and stay consistent enough with something so that you can learn the skills that you need so that when you get to your 30s and 40s and you'll be established.
Yeah.
So
I love
it's
that.
important.
It definitely is. I think we just all need that. And I love how you talk about kind of mentoring broken people because, I have a similar passion, and I think it's because I see the same brokenness in myself. And it's almost as though, a lot of us tend to think we've arrived. But genuinely, I still feel as though I am this broken person that, is continually, yes, I'm mentoring people, but I'm continually being mentored as well. So I think just having those voices in our life are so important.
As you grow with your company, the mentors that are you seeking out mentors, or are they like popping up, around, and then just all of a sudden it's like, oh yeah, it just kind of happens. How are you finding mentors these days?
It's a great question. I would say it's harder now, but I do both. I mean, I'm always kind of looking out at folks around me who could be a good mentor, but I am actively seeking as well. I'm in a part of a group called Strategic Coach, and I reached out to my advisor just a few weeks ago and said, hey, is there anybody else that's in this program that you think would be a good mentor for me? And she connected me with somebody, and, we're just sort of getting to know each other a little bit. But I think those kinds of relationships, in particular now I'm looking for even a different kind of mentor. I think we need different mentors for different seasons of our life. In this particular instance, I'm looking for somebody who's kind of been there, done that on the business side of things, kind of achieved the next level of success that I'm hoping to achieve. And so that's sort of my next kind of level of mentor that I'm looking for.
That's cool. So are you, because I know you work with the EOS system. Mm-hmm. Are you applying that to your personal life as well?
Oh, that's a great question. So, yes, but I've actually developed a bit of my own system for my personal life. So, I love EOS. I love the way that they kind of say, hey, look, everybody operates their business on a system, whether you've named that system or not. It's just a way of organizing human energy. So we operate our business on EOS, but the same thing kind of happens in our personal life. I've realized we all operate our personal life on some kind of a system. How do we organize our human energy in our personal lives? And honestly, I found that most people don't think about that. It's almost like human energy is going all different directions. It's much more reactive than proactive.
Yeah.
And just as I look at my story, I was really drifting instead of like designing what I really wanted. So I've developed a little bit of a system. I'm actually calling it ROS, which stands for the Rhino Operating System. And it's just a way of organizing human energy across a personal life. And it's something that we're actually teaching to our company. The Rhino is sort of our unofficial mascot at Birgo. And so it's a way of just saying, okay, what are the things I want to achieve in this life? When I'm no longer here, how do I want to be remembered? And then working towards that, making, progressive steps towards that.
And are you doing that on like an annual, quarterly, and daily basis?
Exactly.
Like EOS?
Yeah, it runs very similar to EOS from a cadence of accountability standpoint. Those principles are not new. Those are the things. Before we ran on EOS, we used a system called the 4 Disciplines of Execution. Same thing, had a cadence of accountability. We actually used OKRs at one point, objectives and key results. And the same thing, there's a cadence of accountability. So every system has some cadence of accountability. And we found that it works the same way in your personal life. So I like to begin with the end in mind. So, when you're no longer here, what do you want people to be saying at your funeral? I mean, it's a bit of a morbid thing to think about, but it's the most important thing, right? Sure. How do we want to be remembered? And then from there, what are your 10-year, goals? How do you think about your 3-year picture from there? And then what do you want to accomplish this year to help move towards that? Quarterly goals, weekly outcomes, and then the daily tasks that you do to get there.
Are you using 90.io?
We do.
Okay. Yeah. Are you putting your personal stuff in there too?
It's funny you mentioned that. No, because I've actually developed my own app for the Rhino operating system.
Gotcha.
Right now it's in an app called Notion, but we're going to be building out our own proprietary app that's customizable, and it'll probably just be free for folks who want to use it. So we'll probably develop that at some point next year. But 90, I love the way that like it has this weekly cadence built out. So my wife and I actually do a level 10 meeting, very similar to how companies that run on EOS do level 10 meetings. And we really actually like the way that 90 runs those meetings. So we've been running our level 10s in 90.
Really?
Yeah, which is like really
like what's
helpful.
Good.
Yeah.
Let's talk about the headlines.
Yeah, throw an issue up on the board. We have issues we need to solve. We just, we add it to the issues list and we solve those issues. It normalizes the process of dealing with issues, and every marriage has issues, just like every company has issues.
No doubt.
And so it gives us an opportunity to solve those issues together.
Is your wife an entrepreneur?
Yeah, so the fun thing is my wife actually works with me. So in 2012, I started the company. And then in 2014, she resigned from her job and came to join me as kind of our first employee. And then in 2015, we hired our first employee that wasn't the two of us. So we've been working together for about a decade. So that's why we have 90 at our company. And since her and I are already both using 90 at the company, it makes it a little bit easier for us to kind of do our one-on-ones there.
That's what I'm trying to figure out how I can like merge that, because like my wife is like, if it's business, it doesn't feel romantic, right? And I'm like, we don't have to call it a meeting. You know what I mean? Like we don't have to call it that, but it is, I'm like, it's the same page, get together, right? Like, hey, let's figure out what the issues are and try to solve it. So I think I might implement that without calling it a level 10, but like just kind of doing the things, be like, hey, here's some issues. You want to add that to this list, and let's work it out. And
that's how we started. I mean, we just had a Google Doc that we were just tracking, hey, here's a segue. How's your week been? What's been happening right now. What we do is actually in our segue, we say, hey, what are 3 things that I really appreciated that you did in the last week? And what's one thing that actually kind of frustrated me? So that's our segue to each other. We share those with each other.
That's cool.
But she's right. It's not romantic. So for us, we make sure that we're protecting our date nights. We want to make sure that we're getting out of the house, no kids, dating each other, loving each other. We're at least in our marriage, my wife and I are wired differently. She has more of that desire for love and for affection and compassion. And so I want to make sure I'm serving her in that way. I'm reading a book right now called Love and Respect that talks about a little bit of the dynamics that, kind of show up in marriages due to gender differences. And so for us, it's, date night and making sure that I'm meeting her where she is as well. But then she's meeting me where I am with, doing the agenda thing and setting the annual goals. I mean, that's stuff that I'm just really passionate about.
Yeah. So what are the romantic things that you plan? Like, or do you write that on the calendar to go, hey, I need to put some thought into the romantic date or whatever?
Oh, it's so funny you mentioned that, because the short answer is yes, because my wife and I are both planners. And if I'm being honest, that takes a little bit of the spontaneity, romantic side of things out of it. Yeah. So it was actually funny. A year ago, we set a goal to be more spontaneous together. I mean, think of the irony of that. Like, we're setting a goal to be more spontaneous together.
Write it down, though,
right? Yeah. We just said, hey, once a quarter, let's do something more spontaneous. And honestly, we just failed on that goal.
You said you failed?
Yeah, we were just too structured, too planning. But one thing I did do, so we have the bi-weekly date nights is what we're doing, bi-weekly on Fridays on our calendar, and we take turns coordinating who's doing what. That's how we kind of scratch that itch today.
That's cool.
But we also just went to Greece and celebrated our 10-year anniversary.
That's cool.
Yeah, it was really nice. And I actually did a surprise for her in that trip. I ended up scheduling a photo shoot where she had this like flying white dress, which was a lot of fun.
That's cool.
And I got our vows printed out on these plaques, and we actually renewed our vows during this photo shoot. So that was a bit of a surprise in a way that I was, just trying to be a little bit more spontaneous with her.
That's cool, man.
Yeah.
My wife hates surprises.
Yeah.
She hates them.
I totally
and she's
get that.
straight up planner as well, right?
Yeah.
Like, had to plan everything out. I'm like Mr. Improv,
Right.
Like I'm just like, I love, I do my best work when I'm like in it.
Yeah.
Because for me, if I have too much time to plan something, then I get, I guess, paralyzed by the amount of options that there are. Right. Yeah. Not to say that there needs to be like, the plan needs to be like, hey, we're doing something on this day. That's all I need, really. Because then on the day I'm like this and then that and then this, So, but I don't know. But she doesn't, she doesn't necessarily like that,
Yeah.
So I got to bridge that gap between like, how do we plan something out? Because it's just that's just frustrating sometimes. Like sit with someone that is a planner, and they just like because they have to process it, right? Like you guys have to like sit, think, hash out the scenarios.
Yep.
Go, all right, this is probably based on all of this information. Like, well, tell me how your brain works in that way.
Yeah.
Like in planning.
No, it works that exact way. I mean, you're thinking of the scenarios, what could go wrong, what do we need to be thinking about? And that can be a stressful process. And like we do that with all of our vacations too. Like this Greece vacation, we were planning everything out. And we just stopped and we said, let's pick a day where we don't have any plans. That was one of the things we both put on we prepare these things called vacation optimizers before we take a vacation. And so here you go, right? Here you go. It's like a 3-4 page document.
Is it like a SWOT analysis?
Basically, yeah. We come up with a vision for our vacation and
That's amazing.
What do we want to, accomplish with the vacation? So we both prepared it independently and we shared them. We both had this concept of incorporating some time where we don't have plans. And so genuinely, we just the answer is we have to force ourselves to do that. It just doesn't happen automatically.
I mean, look, there's value in that though. The vacation optimizer. It's all like, look, we're gonna spend money, right? We want to have the best time. We know what we like, so why not plan it so that we're in the places that we need to be, so that if we do want to hit up a restaurant, if we're walking all day, then we're in that area at least, right?
Totally.
To like make sure that we're not getting stressed out, especially if, the wife needs, an hour and a half to like get ready.
Yeah.
So that you're like, all right. Again, I don't think
I can
about
do
that.
some things.
I really don't think about it.
Yeah.
I really have no concept. I have to be so much more thoughtful in that way because I just don't think that way. I'm just like, can we just go?
Yeah.
Just roll. We'll figure it out on the way,
Yeah, well, I'm wired similarly. And it's interesting. About a year ago, I took a 1-month sabbatical. And I thought that I was going to appreciate having huge chunks of downtime that were not scheduled. And what I actually found from my first sabbatical is maybe it's just the way I'm wired, but I needed to have a plan. So I didn't necessarily need to stick with the plan verbatim, but just going into the day saying, hey, here are some things that I would like to accomplish this day. And they weren't work-related things. They were like doing some self-discovery or doing a personality assessment or maybe vision casting for my family, or things like that. And, just having some thought, these are the things I'd like to accomplish, just allowed me to actually feel free in that moment. So I think we're all wired differently. I think that's one of the things that I've realized is having a plan is helpful for me.
Yeah, no, I hear you for sure. I started on 90.io about 4 months ago, and it's been game changing. It's been game changing because, like, my brain just is like kind of all over the place. So I have notes in my phone. I have notes on Google Docs. I have notes, on in my calendar. And so now it's just like, after the meeting, and I met with Mark Abbott, it's like just put your personal things in 90, and I was like,
well, it's built to do that.
Yeah.
There's a section for personal to-dos.
Yeah. So now I'm like, okay. And then I just kind of threw everything in there and like all of the things that I want to accomplish. And, and I'm just like, wow, what an amazing tool. Cause now like I am seeing the traction, like every month I'm moving towards getting these rocks done. Talk a little bit about that. I know, we're going to be rolling out of here soon, but, talk to me a little bit about when you guys are creating the vision, are you leaving this area? Are you guys do you like to go out in nature to like think about what your vision is? Do you bring somebody with you? Talk to me about how you sort of plan out your life.
Yeah. Are you asking personal or professional?
Let's start professional, and then we can go personal.
Yeah, sure. So professional, we run on EOS. So once a year we do an annual meeting, 2 days, and those are always off-site with an overnight in between at wherever we are off-site. I do like those being somewhere that has nature, outside of the city, just kind of getting out of your own element. I think anywhere is fine, but the office is definitely not an option. It's got to be somewhere off-site. Yeah. And then our quarterlies tend to be a little bit, so they're 1-day sessions, our quarterlies. Those are a little bit more lightweight, kind of more consistent process that we're following. And those tend to be, usually somewhere in the city, but not at the office.
Are you involving everybody in that quarterly meeting, or just leadership?
So because we run on EOS, it's the visionary, the integrator, and the integrator's direct reports, which is our leadership team. So
got it.
It's about 7 folks that attend those annual and quarterly leadership team meetings. And then what happens is then the leadership team will have that same meeting with their next level down, and then they have that meeting with their next level down. So we kind of do a quarterly team meeting where everybody kind of the leadership team gets to have that same meeting with their direct reports to set their rocks and cascade from there.
So does your VTO, has it changed? Because you set that 10-year. Mm-hmm. Does it always stay the 10-year? Or, is it adapting? Is it changing?
Yeah, it's a great question. So, no, our 10-year target has not changed, and our core values have not changed, and our core purpose has not changed. To us, those are the 3 things that really shouldn't change. The way that EOS thinks about the 10-year target is you set it for 10 years. So we set ours in 2020 to get to $1 billion of assets under management by the year 2030. We're currently at 310 million, somewhere around there. And we think we'll get there. But when that's within your 3-year picture, so when you can say, hey, within the next 3 years, we will hit that, then you set a new 10-year target. So for us, that would be 2027 if we were on track to get there by 2030. We think we'll probably get there a little bit earlier. So around 2025, 2026, maybe we'll probably set a new 10-year target.
Tell me about a story of like an idea that came to you or was told to you by a mentor that like just changed the game like completely.
For me, personally, professionally. Yeah. So, it's happened so many times. It's hard to pick just one. But I do think I kind of go back to, so I wouldn't be where I am today if I hadn't started this business. So I go back to what are the stories, what are the times that really launched me to start this business. And 2 times in particular really come to mind. First is buying this duplex. And an interesting thing is when I bought that, I was actually renting a separate place with my cousin, and we were kind of both interested in real estate. And I really had folks that were helping me understand real estate. And one of the things I realized is, I've got to do a lot of this myself as well. So on weekends and evenings, I'm doing the leasing and I'm doing the maintenance. I'm looking at YouTube videos, figuring out how to replace a thermocouple on a, furnace. I mean, it was just like, wow. I was literally learning this thing on my own, but I like that. I'm wired to love to learn. I have a innate curiosity, and I'm just like, I want to learn how a furnace works. Sure. So having people around me that were just supporting me and learning that really were a game changer in that point. And then 2012, when I, resigned from my full-time job, it was really interesting because I had some voices that at the time were like, Andrew, you have a great job. Like, why rock the boat? Right. I could have kept earning a great income, could have kept moving up in sort of this large corporation. I could have done really well. But the real game changer, again, was this mentor that said, you can always go back to doing that. You'll be fine. Give it a shot. And I did. It was just really, it strikes me as that was exactly what I needed to hear in that moment.
That's cool. Talk to me about Does the market feel saturated when it comes to real estate these days, or is there still just an abundance in this market, in your opinion?
Yeah, well, I think it's really a question of what are you trying to do? So we're a buyer of real estate, so we're trying to buy all the time. And yes, it's a hard time to buy. In fact, it's a good time to sell. If you're a seller, it's a great time to be in the market and to be thinking about selling your assets. Because pricing is high right now. Interest rates have gone up, but cap rates really haven't followed. And so with interest rates high and cap rates still relatively low, it's it's harder to buy. It's harder to make deals cash flow and to get the kinds of returns that we've gotten over the past 10 years. So we're just being patient. We want to steward our investors' capital well, so we're making sure that we don't make bad investment decisions. But in terms of, is it saturated? If you're an operator and you're managing an asset, and you're not looking to buy or sell, it's a good time to be an operator. That's what we do primarily. We operate 3,000 units, and those 3,000 units are fine. They're going to be fine. Our debt is fixed, and it's not adjusting to the new interest rates. So it's a good time to keep doing that. It is a hard time to buy, though. So I think it's a hard time to buy. I'd also be careful with development right now. I think there is a lot of units coming on the market, and absorption is a bit of a question mark for me.
So are people, if people are wanting to get into the business, it would behoove them to probably work with someone like you that already knows sort of the market, can navigate it well, and make sure that that their investment is going somewhere and that can pay them back, right?
Yeah, I mean, it depends what they are thinking in terms of looking to get in the business. Some people want to do what I did, which is be a hands-on operator, which I think is one way to get exposure to real estate. It's more for people that want to do real estate full-time. And in those instances, we're actually not a good company for them to work with, because we don't do third-party property management, so we're not going to help manage their units. We don't do, single-family homes, duplexes, stuff like that. So, we're buying multifamily 50 to 100 units plus, and that's really our sweet spot. So if that's how they're looking to get into it, more of an operator or an active participant, we're probably not a good fit. Who we're really a good fit for is somebody that does something else professionally. So they've usually made some level of money, either as a doctor, lawyer, maybe they've been a tech entrepreneur, somewhere in the technology space. Maybe they're a computer programmer, computer developer, something like that, and they're earning a good income. And they want to get some exposure to real estate, but not have to worry about the tenants in the toilets. They don't want to do what I did.
Right.
Those are great fits for us. We have only private accredited funds, so they have to be an accredited investor, which means they have to have a certain net worth or income. That's
awesome, man. Thank you so much for being on the show. Andrew, look over here and tell them where they can find you.
Awesome. Thanks for having me. Yeah. It was great to be on the show. Feel free to check us out. Birgo.com, BIRGO.com is our website. And you can always find me on LinkedIn, Andrew Reichert. Would love to connect with you.
Cool. And that was Spaghetti on the Wall, ladies and gentlemen, brought to you by Leduc Entertainment. For all of your podcasting needs, social media, videos, we got you. And you can watch Spaghetti on the Wall anywhere. You're probably watching it or listening to it right now on iTunes, Spotify, everywhere. And we'll see y'all next week. Appreciate you.